Welcome to What to Watch with me, Toby Earle, the show which is saddened by how football's oldest traditions have been eroded by the modern game. The degradation continuing with the news that at Spurs' new stadium there'll be no cheese room. Until this show manages to have a cheese room reintroduced to uphold the very basics of the game, we'll speak to the most respectful stars off the most succulent screen in the corner of the room or in your rock forts. Coming up on the show today, Tcheky Karyo discusses the return of Julian Baptiste, whose brief period of contentment is upended by a favour to a friend. In Fiennes' return to the Nile, Sir Ranulph and Joseph Fiennes recreate Sir Ranulph's epic 1969 expedition, which this time comes with an added problem: a total lack of appreciation for Joseph's puns. Andi, Osho and Rose Williams from New Action Adventure Curfew contemplate why their characters might be the toughest out of everyone taking part in a lethal street race. Matt Richardson talks new game show The Hangover Games, where contestants are challenged to complete a series of challenges when they're at their most delicate. A sort of ninja warrior for people who just want pizza and a lie down. And I'll give you my top TV picks of the week, the shows which, if you miss, will make you lonelier than the Bramble K. Melamys, the first mammal designated as extinct due to the direct impact of human-induced climate change. The morning after you've had a few light sherries, what you want is a comedian and camera crew banging on your front door to make you play a series of games to spin the brain juice and the stomach. To soothe those sore heads in their moment of need, Matt Richardson challenges strangers in new comedy game show The Hangover Games, starting on E4 this Tuesday at 10 p.m. I spoke with Richardson about dragging suffering strangers out of their beds, his own nausea, and the time the crew ended up feeling sensitive.
The idea of the show is basically we tell groups of friends they're going on a show called Britain's Best Night Out, and we send a camera crew out with them on their night out. What they don't know is that show is totally made up. Right. So from the off, we're lying to them. And then I rock up at 7 a.m. and wake them up and go, oh, that's not real, but do you want to come and play our game show? And then we make them do horrible things for money. But what's really interesting is everyone that's done it is going, like, they're telling their friends, because, you know, they're all doing disgusting things, but they're going, come on, you can, it's pathetic that you can't do this. And I think it's the kind of show where people will watch it and go, I could do that, or going, oh, you know, I really couldn't. Yeah. But yeah, I think it is one of those that people will watch. It's more enjoyable through the telly because a lot of the games we make them play smell bad.
Really?
So I threw up in one episode because some people started throwing up, and I'm not great at people throwing up around me, so it wasn't the ideal show for me to make. Right. But we're making them eat things and drink things that are disgusting, as well as, you know, lots of spinning around and things that you don't really want to do when you're hungover. A lot of them, they didn't shower, they just came and
straight out the door.
Straight out and did it. And that's sort of part of the fun of it. Like, some of them were going, can we get some makeup? And we go, we don't want you to wear makeup because we want you to look horrendous, because that's sort of the point of the show. If we glam you up, it doesn't really give a sense of how rough you are right now. Yeah, it was great, just making people really suffer. But they all were really up for it. And I thought my job, quite often, when we were knocking on the door, I'd say, you know, what happens if they say no? And they went, you've got to talk them round to it. That's not really what I do. But no one said no. I didn't have to convince anyone to do the show, which was really nice. So, for example, we'd go through, there'd be games where we'd be like, which one of you kissed this boy? And they wouldn't know, which is pretty mind-blowing. But they were really going for it on the nights out. It made Geordie Shore look like it could be on CBBC.
It was that.
Yeah. People really love a night out in this country. And we went all out, so we went to 10 different cities as well, rather than doing it in London. Sure, because, you know, people can't afford to drink for very long in London.
No. You get a half and...
Yeah, you know, £7 a pint, you're not going to stay out till 4 a.m.
Why would you do that? Just get the night tube.
Just Barrow in Furness, you can drink as much as you like. On the show, I've got a comedian called Ken Cheng as my... he's like the scorekeeper of the show. He's sort of my sidekick, which is really... I've never had a sidekick before. I've always been the sidekick. And he doesn't drink and never has. He's never touched alcohol. So I was quite sympathetic with them all. Yeah. And then Ken's just going, you all make me feel sick. Like, why would you do this to yourself? Which doesn't help people when they're hungover, having someone judge them. Like, I was kind of going, oh, I really feel for you. And then having someone just go, you need to question everything you've chosen to do in your life, like, really sent them over the edge. It was quite satisfying to watch, because I've never had nights out quite as wild as they did. Really? There was one night where we had a night out before filming the next day.
Yeah.
So everyone on the crew was hungover as well. And we did that very early on in the shoot and then worked out that it was the worst thing in the world. Like, we shouldn't be hungover as well because they're doing these games, and rather than me going, ha, I was going, I think I'm going to faint if I watch them drink anything else. So, yeah.
What was your hangover? What was your hangover strategy then, and what is your hangover strategy normally?
My hangover, I don't really have a strategy. I drink lots of water before going to bed,
Very
and
sensible.
I have a diarrhea light as well.
Do you?
Yeah, a diarrhea light before you go to bed, and a diarrhea light when you wake up and you feel okay.
A double diarrhea light?
A double diarrhea light.
The blackberry?
Yeah, blackberry's the best flavour, I think.
Right, okay.
That's my technique, is diarrhea light. I always find really helps you through a hangover.
And that's it?
Yeah, what's yours? Do you have one?
Cross the fingers, hope for the best. Bacon roll, biscuits, staring. Now for what we call WTW. PC, T, Q, O, T, W. What to Watch's pop culture Twitter quote of the week? What a celebrity said on Twitter this week. Sock, glove, lost, abandoned? So many questions. Hanks tweeted typewriter aficionado and animated cowboy Tom Hanks. He did, however, fail to spot what had happened to this item of clothing, something he should know well. It was Castaway. You may have just about recovered from the shocks within the first episode of Curfew, the action-adventure horror where a group of drivers compete in a lethal street race to win a new life away from a totalitarian regime. If you haven't, then buckle up, because we're heading back in with Andi, Osho and Rose Williams. The ride of their life continues on Sky One this Friday at 9 p.m, and the pair spoke about not knowing which of their co-stars survives, how Rose bonded with a prop, and when they've broken curfews.
It's just like constant shocks and twists and turns like every episode, so even if you're reading it, or hopefully when people watch it, they'll just really love the different chicanes that are in every episode and the cliffhangers at the end as well, and just and also just finding out who won. Do you know what I mean? Like, how does the whole thing play out in the end, and why is this race been created? All that sort of stuff.
It is so unpredictable, but they use like flashback a lot throughout the series. So it's like you learn about the characters. It jumps forward and back and forward and back, and it paints the picture sort of round ways, which ties it all together really nicely. But there are some shocks in there, aren't there?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
There was, in our rehearsal, when the Donahues all met to rehearse for the first day with our director, Colin, someone said, oh, you know, all right, so who dies then? We haven't shot anything at this point. It's like, come, tell us. Who's going to make it? Who's going to make it to the end? And he sort of went around the room and just went, you survive, this is awkward, I'm not doing this. And he stopped and he didn't get as far as me. So I'm like, what happens to you? So we were finding out as the scripts were coming out, like we literally did not know, like, until we read what our fate is. Because everything is so immediate, you sort of forget about other circumstances and just deal with what's immediately in front of you, i.e. my kid's in danger, or I want to get to the finish line so that my kid can get out of this like hell on earth, basically. So yeah, I think definitely both characters are just like single-minded if their child's life is in jeopardy.
Yeah, for me that's like the ultimate motivation, I think, is your child and your baby. Like, I don't think, for me anyway, like I thought there's no other thing that could want you to kind of survive more than that. For someone else that you've grown. Yeah,
and obviously you had the
bump. Yeah.
The bump.
Yeah.
How was that?
I loved it. I've had a real emotional connection to the bump.
Did you give it a name? Did you give the bump a name?
Well, just bump.
Just bump.
Yeah. It was comfy actually, and I liked wearing it.
We're in such a survival situation. It just kind of felt like those are the circumstances that your character's dealing with, rather than so much what the world is. I don't know.
I just think it's quite interesting to look at how different characters and like the human spirit will adjust and behave after a disaster, or like in this kind of environment. It's like what makes a person, and how does the environment affect people differently? Like, are they comfortable with something protecting them and structure? Do they want to break out of it? And that part of each person's personality, like how people's reactions.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting.
When was the last time you had a curfew, and what was it for?
I used to pretend that my watch was broken. I used to set it back like half an hour or something.
Yeah.
Like, Osho is going to fall for that. But I'd be like, but look, my clock says 10. And it'd be like 11:30 or something. She's just like, I don't think so. Yeah. Cross, though.
And were you grounded after those kind of incidents?
No, I never got grounded, actually. I think I just got told off. I know I think of it. I used to think she was really strict, but actually, I don't think she was.
And you, Rose, were you fiddling with your watch to gain a little bit extra time? Have you?
I think I was quite good at coming in very quietly as a teenager. Very quietly creeping up the stairs.
Ballerina toes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really... Welcome back to What to Watch with me, Toby Earle, the show that aims to guide you through your week's viewing and give you a glimpse behind the scenes and hear from the stars. Coming up, I'll give you the TV picks of the week, which are almost as good as the news. Bread, remember that? It was like bookends for sandwiches. Bread is making a comeback after it fell out of fashion. But first, Friends are the worst. Not those 6 New Yorkers with the hair and the improbable renting arrangements, but Friends. Without Friends, Julian Baptiste wouldn't be dragged into investigating a sex trafficking ring and also face the threat of extreme violence when he's been having a nice time in Amsterdam. Tcheky Karyo reprises his role as Baptiste in the titular thriller on BBC One Sundays at 9 p.m. And we discuss the European outlook of the series and whether Baptiste is less complicated than he appears.
In this one, he's trying to help somebody who is in a turmoil, Tom Hollander, who is dealing with a very complex situations and that he's sort of stuck. We don't know if he's a good guy or bad guy, you know. And Julien gets a little bit lost also because as the series starts, he's feeling a bit insecure. He just went through a surgery, and he's just happy to be alive, you know, and taking care of their grandchild in Amsterdam. And suddenly he's called into a case that is sort of reluctant because he's not sure he will be able to manage. I was really surprised, especially the way the first episode, the way it starts. You know, it's like an anacrusis, like a like notes coming out really strong, and then the piece starts, you know, and it develops and unveils here and there some corners of the intrigue, and you get hooked almost.
I love the idea.
At first sight.
Sorry to interrupt. I love the idea. Despite all these years working together with the Williams brothers, you're still as clueless as the audience at times.
Completely.
What's happening?
Yeah, it's good.
Who are you? I'm Julien Baptiste. I'm someone who can help find who you're looking for.
You know, the brothers, Williams, give him a lot of very human trait. And this character is somebody really loving, you know. So for me, it's a treat. It's a gift to. I'm glad to come back, you know, especially realizing how dear he's with the audience, and how dear the project itself, the series of The Missing was so welcome. So it's like a big embrace that I'm glad to give back every time I'm called, you know.
There's a great line in the first episode, which I really liked, was as you say, "I'm less complicated than I appear." You give a look, and your partner says, "Oh, I know that. I know that look. I know that look.
That mystery look."
That's the one. And you say, "I'm less complicated than I appear."
Yeah.
Is that true of Baptiste?
I don't know. You know, I think we are made of so much contradiction, so much such a turmoil inside. You know, I like to say sometimes it's good and sometimes it stinks. You know, and it's fragile. You know, it's ephemeral.
It's a fascinating series because, of course, even though it has in the past focused on British families and British people, I mean, it is set across Europe.
Definitely.
But it is completely European in its outlook.
Yes, and very British, because two British brothers have been writing it, and especially with the cast. But it's true that there is an open spirit above any political or economical interest. There is a real desire to share with others. The difference is not a fear, you know.
And now for the TV news in briefs. In Do As Greg Davies Tells You, or Else news, the contenders in the new series of Taskmaster have been unveiled. Moving into Davies and Alex Horne's Little House this time, a comedian and Love Island narrator Ian Sterling, actor Joe Thomas, comedian Lou Sanders, comedian and chaser Paul Sinha, and actor Sean Gibson. Sean suggested they all travel together in a car share. And that was the TV news in briefs. Now, stop wondering if this scorpion in a plane's overhead locker was someone's carry-on luggage, because it's time for my TV picks of the week. Holidays are a time for a family to relax and reconnect, although relatives nattering for 2 weeks by a pool in an all-inclusive resort wouldn't make for great TV. That was the first pitch from Sir Ranulph and Joseph Fiennes. But then Sir Ranulph suggested they recreate his epic 1969 expedition along the Nile. This was a landmark journey which carried multiple logistical complications. In Fiennes' Return to the Nile, we find this trip is still not to be trifled with. Their adventure begins on National Geographic Wednesday at 9 p.m. And when we met, we explored the perils of desert driving, squirreling into recently discovered tombs and unappreciated puns.
I feel like I've probably let the world's greatest living explorer down, and I wonder whether I'm even connected to the world's greatest living explorer. That was just the first week. I think it got better second week and third week, hopefully.
Yeah, you are concentrating on the
You always
careless
have to pick
side.
out the bad stuff.
But I did.
I'm alive. What are
No,
you
I
talking about?
seriously did. On one particular area, he was going along at 60, and suddenly, like the front wheel burst that quickly, the vehicle went straight over. So from 60 till 0, oomph, and I was following behind in another vehicle, and I thought Cousin Joe was dead. I really did. Yeah. Back in '69, 50 years ago, with a team of initially 6. One of them got badly burnt with petrol and flies and all that sort of stuff. And we wanted to do the Nile from the sea to the source, 4,000 miles, the longest river in the world. So quite honestly, we were bumph. You do your mileage per day. There's a triangular thing like a pyramid in the distance, you know. We weren't culturally in any way which we should have been in such a wonderful country. So 50 years later, to get the chance to do the things which we missed in the middle of pyramids and things, it's just such a lovely chance.
There were moments in Armenia when we were traveling. We were like several meters under the ground, traveling through these tunnels, which you could, as Aran described, barely crawl through, and it was like shifting sands. So they were moving, and if you knocked a little bit of a pillar, it would begin to sort of disintegrate. So there was this ticking clock about will we survive? But I was so caught up in the wonder of coming across mummies with these, as Rand described, with these great grins and amazing sets of teeth, and these beautiful sarcophagi. I mean, and the craftsmanship, the level of brilliance back then is just unparalleled.
And they showed us where they were chipping 80-foot high models of pharaohs out of rock with chisels, just chipping them out of rock. And sometimes you could see 3,000-year-old family symbols where they'd chipped their little family cat's head or whatever.
Yes, the crest.
Yeah, it's just amazing. We'd gone sailing past all that and missed it all out. Yeah. So doing it, you know, with Joe and Nat Geo was just a great chance.
We through Nat Geo, we got unprecedented access to some of the great wonders of the world, from Giza to Armenia, and a dream. To have that combined with my cousin, world's greatest living explorer, Aka, Guinness Book of Records, was just a dream come true. Yeah.
And doing it, which I quite liked, in the same 50-year-old Land Rovers, that we'd used way back yonder. That was a sort of the same theme thing. And they were still just as reliable in dreadful sort of conditions and so on.
The drivers weren't so reliable. The machines themselves were.
Oh, no, he's letting himself down. He did very, very well. Even aerial. Looks best to turn right before the pyramid.
Okay, fair enough.
I did wonder about your persistence with Egyptian puns. Given their reception, were you in a state of denial?
Yeah, I was, just like Cleopatra. Yeah.
No, all I can say is I must be bloody thick.
He's going senile. That's what
Yes, that sort of thing.
There are times when a twist arrives in a story which you never saw coming, such as in this demonstration of parkour. Such sudden, disorientating detours are present in David Lynch's Inland Empire, on London Live Thursday at 10 p.m. Longtime Lynch collaborator Laura Dern plays actress Nikki Grace, who wins a role which could secure her return to the big time, until she learns the film she's working on is a remake of a legendarily cursed flick which claims the lives of the cast. Rabbit holes lead into rabbit holes in this unsettling psychological horror, with bunnies acting as fluffy portents of doom. That's it for this week. Thank you very much for joining me. I'll be back next week at 6:30 on Monday. Or watch the show as it streams on London Live's Twitter at 12:30 on Tuesdays, while you have a spot of lunch. I'll be back next Monday, so keep watching.